Hello, this is the Maya of the future in post-production. Just wanted to make a note that the audio on this episode is not the greatest in the world. This is because we tried a relatively novel idea called recording in person. I promise you it will not happen again, and I do apologize, but I thank you for listening to this, and I'm glad that we're back. Enjoy the show. Okay, I pressed the thing, so we are going now.
After 3 months, I'm free. It's time to conquer Wikizilla.
So true.
So true.
So true. I'm glad we're continuing the Lucy out of pocket as tradition to open these things.
Can we reasonably call this a live episode if we're all in the same room? Like, there's gotta be a word for that, right?
It's like we're all guests on the pod, but we're not guests.
I think the word for that is that we're lazy and we have the opportunity.
This wasn't lazy. It took us like half an hour to set it up.
It would have taken me that long to set up my usual setup. We're getting a bit into the weeds here. Hello. It's been 3 months. Post-production Maya again, real quick. It's now been 4. I recommend you pointing your pitchforks at me specifically. Sorry about that. Things didn't quite go as we expected.
We said we would record more.
Yeah,
we didn't.
Yeah. Lucy was in Rhode Island for 3 months straight.
At school for an institution which I won't say on the podcast, but which probably make itself clear enough.
Sure. So we went as far as to line up guests for it, and then we set up to record, and then Liz went on vacation. You got a throat infection.
You got sick too, didn't you?
No, I got sick before we recorded the last one.
Oh, right, yeah.
This podcast isn't very good at not
We're getting there.
Growing pains.
Growing pains. This is the 3rd episode. We've been doing this for half a year now. Half of which was spent
not doing
it. Me not being available, yes.
Yes. So this is excellent.
Monkey.
Yes. We're here today to talk about monkeys. And
one large monkey, actually.
One very
Just
large.
the one.
One
Yeah.
large narcoleptic monkey.
Easy P.
I suppose I should introduce the podcast. This is Queens of the Monsters, the podcast where monkey. The music you are hearing right now is Godzilla's March from the game Godzilla Battle Legends on the Turbo Duo, one of the few Godzilla games that was actually released in the United States. However, the Turbo Duo version was not, so this is kind of moot. That's it. It is one of the only video game appearances of both Jet Jaguar and Manila, so we love it all the same. My name is Maya King. My pronouns are she and her. If you're cis, you could use they if you're trans, but otherwise that's it.
My name is Lucy. Pronouns are she and her.
My name is Ariel. My pronouns are she, her.
Cool, you're here as the model expert, typically.
Yes, I am.
Yes. As opposed to the other 2 of us, which are just here as the
B-movie geeks.
Monkey expert in this case.
Monkey. And the weeaboo.
Sure. This is a movie about monkey. We're here to talk about...
Monkey.
Yes, we're here. This is King Kong vs. Godzilla, the original 1962 one.
62?
Yes. Why don't I have the date in front of me all of a sudden? Released on August 11th, 1962. Directed by Ishiro Honda, the director of the first film, who was back after not being around for the last film. That basically means that we finally get an opportunity for it to be good again.
Yes.
So,
and it is good.
Yes.
It is good.
Yeah, the last film wasn't as good, but this is sort of the first of the Godzilla versus Monster of the Year genre, which sort of became the dominant one after this.
And, like, we came right into it, like, full force.
Yeah.
Like, the first film was its own thing. The second film was kind of nothing. The third one is the blueprint of what we'll see for the rest of the era.
That's true. That's true on pretty much every level, even down to the fact that it's the first film in color and the first film in widescreen.
Toho scope.
Yes, Toho scope.
Which presumably is just, like, CinemaScope or whatever.
Yeah, it's 235-1. CinemaScope prefers to, like, 70mm film. I actually don't know. Now I'm going to look it up because I'm curious. It was designed to compete with CinemaScope.
Except they named it after themselves.
Yes. It's an anamorphic lens system. It's widescreen. It's 235-1. Like, that's the...
It's wide.
Animorphs?
But not, like, animorphs?
Animorphs.
Monkey animorph?
Monkey animorph. That's, anybody ever played Rampage?
Yeah, that's monkey.
Anyone seen the movie Rampage? I have not.
God, I always forget that was a film. We should cover that sometime. That could be a podcast episode.
Dwayne Johnson in a movie where he's wearing a tight white shirt and his has a profession where he is not a professional wrestler, but still has the physique of one. That has to be explained away.
Yes.
This is all Dwayne, quotation marks, The Rock Johnson movies.
So if we just want to get into the film, I will do that. So
I think there's a little bit of history lesson due for.
Yes, this is true. Godzilla, of course, is Toho's monster, but King Kong is an American innovation.
Yes.
From
RKO and/or Universal. I don't recall.
It was RKO.
No, it was RKO. I think the rights had fallen to Universal by that point.
That sounds right.
That was 1933?
1 or 3, I don't remember. Early 30s, pre-code. Landmark film, like one of the most important in cinema history type deals.
Fay Ray is Fay Ray.
I have this in my notes, but I don't have my notes pulled up because I'm a silly woman. So the idea for King Kong fighting a guy started with the lead stop motion artist on the original film, Willis O'Brien. And his idea was King Kong versus Frankenstein, which would then eventually become King Kong versus Prometheus, because Frankenstein was like a copyrighted character. And then Toho got involved, and they dropped Frankenstein and put their own guy in instead. And that's how King Kong fought Godzilla. And then they would go on to make a whole like sub-series of King Kong films.
Weren't they originally going to do Frankenstein versus Baragon? They used the license for something. Something else, I forget what.
Imagine showing that to Mary Shelley. Imagine explaining that to Mary Shelley. Like, okay, you took a nap in Switzerland one day, and now there's just this giant lizard.
Part of the agreement between Toho and RKO/Universal was that this King Kong had to be visually distinct from the original, which was accomplished partly by making it a suit, as opposed to the stop-motion work of the original film, but also by making it look bad.
Yes, this is ultimately
this
important.
King Kong is unfortunate.
Some goofy suits in this movie.
Yes. Yeah, Frankenstein. It was Frankenstein versus Baragon. Our future favorite monster from a different film, many years in advance.
And that's where he came from, right?
I think so. That's actually really funny. They had the license to do Frankenstein, but they decided they didn't want to, so they just invented a C-tier monster.
Basically, Godzilla at this point is like the Fortnite of its day. It's just like we're bringing in all the different characters.
Jesus Christ.
I mean, they would bring in Rodan and Mothra, and so, like, I guess, kinda, in a sense. This King Kong suit was, not the greatest. It looks fine in the night scenes. In the daylight, it does not hold up at all. There's, like, animatronics or some sort of, like, mechanical work in the face to make it articulate, and, it doesn't look too good. The fur was hand-dyed, because,
Jesus.
Why would you use a machine to dye that much hair? It was yak hair.
Oh, good
What?
Lord.
Okay.
So it was really comfortable to wear, is what you're saying.
Very hot as well, probably.
And of course, we also have a new Godzilla this time around.
Yes, because it had been 55 to 62. It had been 7 years.
Yeah.
That's the longest gap. No, that was not. That's the second longest gap for any of the Godzilla films, because the second one, because Terror of Mechagodzilla was 74, and Godzilla 84 was 84, so 10 years. So that's the second.
There was a long hiatus between
Godzilla
Raids Again and this one.
That's weird. I don't think I realized that, because the third generation Heisei films or the Millennium films, the gap was 3 years. Mm-hmm. Because Godzilla 98 had come out in the interim, and Toho was like, okay, we want our IP back. So that's why they do Godzilla. So that's why they do Godzilla 2000.
Our obligatory Godzilla 98 reference.
I can't wait till we record that episode.
Oh, it's gonna be so bad.
Yeah.
He's pregnant.
She's pregnant.
So as a result, that's where we got this Godzilla suit.
Yes.
Which has a name.
He's King Goji.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's just King Goji, right?
He's wonderful. I love him. He's a little frog boy. He's chubby. He's got big hands.
He's got big cheeks.
He's got big cheeks.
Got a big nose too, yeah.
Claps.
He does.
He claps like a motherfucker.
It's an interesting suit, because in terms of the evolution of the Godzilla design, it is sort of, you called it a transitionary suit, because it's the difference between like the very first generation of Godzillas, which
was like a dinosaur, very like pointed, like reptilian mouth.
Yes.
And then starting with the next film, Godzilla's nose would get a lot more flat and slope downward a little bit. It'd get a lot more human features.
Yeah, like a pug almost.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mosu Goji particularly does have that kind of look.
Yeah, and that's still what Godzilla's like, except for
like some weirdo like Millennium Detours.
-1 is kind of the same way too. So this is a Godzilla design that we don't see the return of for quite some time. Quite a while.
We're getting towards the end of each movie having its own suit. The next one will be the last suit that doesn't get reused.
Yeah, because the next one is also where we get to the point of having one film per year.
Yeah.
Except for that year, because there were 2 films that year.
And, like, we privately, the 3 of us, have been goofing on King Goji for being silly looking, but I like him. It's a silly film, and we have a silly Goji.
Yeah, that's ultimately where we're going to go with this. This is the first silly Godzilla.
As silly it is.
And
it's silly, but it has some very serious, meaningful themes. While also being incredibly racist as well.
Oh, it's horrible. Yeah. It's so much worse than I could have imagined.
Yeah, this is a Godzilla film from the 1960s. Like, racism
Okay, but like even American films from the 1960s generally didn't have blackface.
Well,
they had brownface.
True. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brownface, yellowface, yeah.
That's a bit of a preview.
When did The King and I come out?
When did The King and I come out?
I was thinking, like, The King and I works. I was thinking, like Ben-Hur.
59.
Okay.
56, I'm sorry. Can't read.
Lawrence of Arabia.
Oh, yeah.
We were big on the racism,
like the Middle Eastern racism.
I was going to say, like, the Orientalism, specifically aimed at the Middle East at that point.
Yeah. And this is a movie about racism and Orientalism about the South Seas and the South Pacific.
Yes. The South Seas, they just keep coming up in these Godzilla films, don't they?
We'll get to that.
They just keep making up, like, fake islands.
The Faroe Islands are real.
Ah.
I don't know if it's the same as the ones in the film, but the Faroe Islands are definitely real.
So
I'm going to assume...
The Faroe Islands... I don't know.
Oh, the Faroe Islands are off of Denmark.
Yeah, the Faroe Islands are a possession of Denmark in the North Sea. Faroe Island, I think it has the name from the Spanish word for lighthouse.
Faroe Island, the Godzilla one, doesn't have an E. The Faroe Islands in real life does.
This whole time, I genuinely thought it was the Faroe Islands.
So they get to Faroe Island and it's just a giant sheep.
Yeah, Faroe Island is a fictional island in the Solomon Islands. Okay.
Near Bougainville, yeah.
We have 3 films and 3 made-up islands.
This one's at least close to the one from the second film. The film opens with the funny spinny globe. My first thought was, is that literally the Universal logo? They just borrowed the globe from that. But this isn't a Universal co-production like I thought it was. They just had got the rights to it down the line.
Yeah, what it is it's basically, it's kind of like PBS Nova, essentially. It's a science news and information show hosted by a very nerdy guy with a very nerdy mustache, as I believe. Mm-hmm. And the show itself is sponsored by the Pacific Pharmaceutical Corporation.
Yes.
Who's like run by a guy named Mr. Taco.
Yeah.
And Mr. Taco does not like the fact that they are running on basically that they are advertising their product on PBS Nova. Basically,
at one point they say they have a 5% viewer share, which that would be pretty decent nowadays for like one specific television show. Like that would be pretty good. But obviously it was the 60s, so television was quite a bit different. At the time, it was in American network, the American networks. If you got a 13, that was considered dismally bad. Mm. So that's times change quite a bit, and programming has gotten quite a bit more diverse. I'm gonna guess the PBS has never really come anywhere near a 5% market share.
True, yeah.
Which PBS did exist at the time, National Educational Television still. Mr. Rogers was about to come out.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's like getting close to like Sesame Street.
Yeah, we're not that far off.
And we are in the 60s, so basically, this movie starts out like it's Mad Men, basically, because the central inciting plot thread is that it's just advertisers trying to like find something to attach the Pacific Pharmaceutical brand to,
and their penis pills specifically.
Yes, their penis pills. So I
don't remember the penis.
They never explicitly say this, but Pacific Pharmaceuticals Their main product is called Passion, which in the subtitles is spelled Pashin.
Yeah, it's like a phonetic pun.
And so it's never supposed to, it's never stated to be so, but it's so clearly dick pills.
Yeah, like the name, like it's penis pills. I
didn't pick up that Passion was like a transliteration of...
I didn't either, to be clear. I had to stare at it a few times in the subtitles before I realized it. But yeah, no, it's dick pills. Sex drive pills, if you want to be less blunt about it, I guess. But this is all about a pharmaceutical company trying to hawk cock pills to the general public.
And it's going to do that through Monkey.
Yes.
Through a monkey.
Through Monkey. Yeah, so this fella, Mr. Taco, this fella, has a wonderful mustache.
He looks like Groucho Marx.
He does, yeah.
He looks a lot like Groucho Marx.
He looks like if Groucho Marx was Hirohito, quite frankly.
Yeah, he's got the glasses for it, yeah. I love this guy. He's
an utter whack job.
He's a big time favorite of Godzilla characters so far, just because he was funny.
Yeah.
So he is obviously tasked with bringing something to market, bringing a way to sell more penis pills, because they're not doing it enough on PBS Nova. PBS Nova, this particular instance, is covering. It's actually, they're actually covering climate change, essentially.
They do cover climate change.
Because, they're talking about the Arctic Ocean temperatures rising, which we later find out is not the fault of climate change, but the fault of Godzilla.
It's the fault of nuclear power, of course.
Yes.
And I found this really interesting because, we'll have a shot, like, in a few minutes or something, of, like, ice caps melting, and they're, like, glowing with radioactive power. I didn't expect this movie to be a direct continuation of Godzilla Raids Again. It is.
Yeah, no, it's the ice that they trapped. Yeah,
a direct sequel.
Yeah, the ice that they trapped him in from the first film, and the direct sequels in this era are really rare, or in any era of Godzilla. Actually, thinking about it. So, in order to drum up more attention for his penis pills, this isn't how it starts out. He gets dragged into a meeting where somebody who works for the company is showing off jars of red berries that he brought back from his vacation to the South Seas.
Yeah.
At this point in the film, you're not really ready for what it's about to hit you with whenever you go to the South Seas.
It is going to slap you in the face.
But this employee that just came back is like the locals also talk about this giant god.
They specifically refer to it as the mammoth evil spirit.
Yes.
Which is what happens when you take Passion.
So this marketing executive hears about this ancient giant evil spirit, and his first thought is, how do we use this to sell dick pills?
Like, he is on the grind set.
He was ahead of his time.
Truly, he was. So he decides to just send out 2 employees of his television station, who are notably not trained to do any of this.
They're not anthropologists. They're nothing like that. It's like Don Draper and Pete, basically.
Yeah.
He's sending them to the South Pacific.
Yeah, sending them to this island in the South Pacific, Faroe Island, as mentioned, which again, Faro, not related to the Faroe Islands, as I've just discovered.
Yeah.
So their goal is to go there and to find this literal god that they were just told about, and to bring him back, which is an interesting series of events, I think.
There's
it's interesting
grab
idea.
This deity and just bring him back and make him sell dick pills.
Yes.
Which, to be fair, again, is not super far off from the plot of the original King Kong. So
it's true, actually. No, I did point this out, but we get pretty quickly. We're we're caping plot ideas from the original film,
and then
both original films.
Was it 76 that other King
77,
Kong movie came out?
I think.
77. With that other King Kong movie would take that plot as well. It was like promoting. I think it was like an oil company.
That's less funny.
It's less funny than dick pills, but it is more American.
Yeah.
Marginally.
That's true.
Dick pills are pretty American.
I was kind of surprised at the viability of marketing dick pills in the early 60s.
Well, you couldn't call them dick pills, but...
Well, no, you couldn't, but they were dick pills. Anyway.
There's a lot of, like, ADR in these early sequences, and the dubbing is not the greatest.
Yeah,
timing is super off.
We then cut to the United States Navy.
Yes.
Speaking in full English.
Speaking in full English, horribly ADR'd. Specifically, it is a submarine called the USS Seahawk, which is notably the name of a bird, which is not what the United States at any point has ever named a submarine after.
Yeah.
It's actually the opposite of what they name submarines for. It's something that goes into the ocean. Also, the sub is numbered 505, which is a very funny and very unfortunate number for a submarine. But yeah, so it is a submarine that's been dispatched to the Arctic Ocean to look into, I guess, the melting ice caps.
Yeah.
I guess it's a reference to Operation High Jump, which was like a submarine thing in the 1950s, but
I don't know if I'd go if I would look that much into it, but that's a reasonable line to draw.
Yeah, and also at this point I get to exercise my autism here because these American Navy officers they're not dressed like naval officers. They're wearing their khakis and everything like that, but on their covers are completely different devices from what actual naval officers back then.
Yeah, well, the first few people we see are in dress whites, aren't they?
No, aren't they in their khakis?
I think we see the guys in their dress whites first in the khaki.
I think we see it. I distinctly remember guys in whites.
Yeah,
okay.
But then the guys in khakis come on later.
Yeah, and also their collar devices are hysterical because again, the collar devices bear no relationship to what actual Navy officers and stuff wear. And it's Japan in the 1960s. I think that they can portray this more accurately than they do.
I don't really think it's super important for them to. I was mostly surprised that they had American actors and confused as to why they then overdubbed the American actors speaking English into more English.
Yes.
Into worse English.
And so these sailors aboard the submarine, they see a iceberg that is glowing blue with Cherenkov radiation. And then they get attacked.
Well, no, they first crash the submarine.
That's true. They do crash the submarine into an iceberg.
We get another moment of phallic imagery as we see the submarine having crashed into the iceberg. But then, sorry, Lucy just rolled her eyes at me. That was really funny. But then
the benefits of recording.
You can't design a submarine to look any other way, unfortunately.
I know, but it was. We saw it having crashed into the iceberg, and we just see it stick. We just see the back of it sticking out of the iceberg that they crashed in a little bit. Anyways, after they crash the submarine, nothing is really wrong for a minute, other than the fact that they've crashed the submarine. Then a bunch of water starts leaking in, which if you're in a submarine and that starts happening,
that's not what you want to have happen.
You're probably already dead if you're most of the time.
Well, it depends on how deep you are in the water, because the water, there is a certain point where the pressure just instantly destroys the submarine.
Yeah.
But then if it's just flooding, then if it's at a certain depth, then it's just flooding.
I mean, if they're not that far beneath the surface, I have to ask why they didn't just take a boat rather than a submarine. But
because subs are cool.
Well,
subs are cool.
Yeah. Not as cool as surface vessels, but that's what's.
Well, that was my point. You could take a surface vessel out there.
Yeah. Do they have an icebreaker though?
I don't know. It's the fucking United States. Yes, we did.
Honestly, our icebreaker fleet nowadays is.
We don't need it that much.
We don't have ice anymore to break.
That's true. We don't have ice anymore because of woke, I assume.
Yes.
So then, after water starts leaking into the submarine in force, the place starts shaking about a bit. We hear the first Godzilla scream, the first of the iconic Godzilla screeches.
Right, the one that they'll use continuously for the rest of the Showa era.
And afterwards. The Godzilla screech has sort of varied quite a bit over the years, but this is sort of the first time.
This is the default one.
Yeah. I actually don't know how they did this. I know the first one was done by basically abusing a cello, but I'm not sure how they did it this time. Very stand-up based. Then I presume Godzilla catches this submarine on fire. We don't actually see him.
The ceiling of the submarine does
we see the ceiling of the submarine catch fire. Which again, if you were seeing this on a submarine, I would assume you would already be dead.
It's not the kind of situation that you want to have happen.
No, this is true. This is true. I mean, I don't know what submarine firefighting looks like.
And now,
neither do I.
We get into the horrors.
Do we? No, we.
My next note is the horrors.
Oh.
So there may be some stuff between us.
I can't remember what comes first. I'm going to pretend the horrors come first, and I'm going to hope that that's right, because I think it's right. Our two fellows arrive on Faroe Island.
No relation.
Yeah, Faroe Island, no relation.
They're dropped off by a rowboat with a bunch of, I guess are they merchant marines?
I would assume they were merchant marines.
In full dress whites and everything like that.
Yeah, that part threw me. I wasn't quite sure what they were doing there.
It is hysterical to me that they're, after they're dropped off on the island, you do see a pretty long shot of the guys in the rowboat just sort of bumbling their way back to the ship. Just not my problem anymore.
Yeah. our two main protagonists, sort of a Tweedledee and Tweedledum type, they immediately run into the first blackface guy.
Right.
The first guy who is very much in blackface.
Like, I was warned in advance that there would be blackface, but I was not prepared.
I was not warned in advance that there would be blackface, for the record.
I thought that it's weird because, like, the first guy has less blackface on him than the guys we're about to see.
Yeah, because he's their translator, and so he has to be coded as more civilized.
Yeah, but, like, it's weird because it feels like the movie is priming you for racism.
It's like the diet, it's like the wind-up.
Yeah.
But this first guy, the translator guy, also has, like, the lips, which
is
not the case on all of the others, because they're, like...
Yeah.
Most of the other characters are, like, pseudo-blackface, like, pseudo, brown, red face, whatever.
Yeah. This guy that's their translator, he has the radio around his neck, he can speak Japanese. I don't remember what the native language was said to be. I don't really think it matters, because it would have been completely not...
Is it... Yeah, I was gonna say, it's not a real language, I'm
so
sure.
It doesn't matter. So then he takes them to this tribe on Faroe Island, which I don't think they give a name. And then we see the large blackface squadron.
An entire civilization.
Yeah,
and they're wearing, like, fucking, like, feathered headdresses and, like...
hula skirts and...
Yes. And
they have spears.
They have shields that actually have more traditional Japanese imagery on them, which stood out to me as being strange. It's kind of hard to peel your eyes away from how horrible it is at this point.
Yeah.
As I had also known this was the blackface movie, but I had never seen it before this, so I wasn't aware how bad of the blackface movie it was. It's bad. It's real bad.
It's really bad.
Yeah.
Horrifically bad.
Yeah, it's real bad.
Like, it's not just, like, one character. It's not just, like, one stereotype. It's, like...
It is a entire civilization of people wearing blackface, doing, like chanting.
Shit. Yeah, like, worshipping the, like, thunder...
Yeah.
As we'll see later on.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we do tribalism later on. And we do weird quasi-tribalism and definitely racism later on, but it's never anywhere near as bad as this, which is part of the reason I was so taken aback.
I mean, there was, like, pseudo-tribalism in, like, the first
film. Yeah. They were, like, traditional Japanese, though, weren't they?
Right.
Well, yes. It was Okinawan, right?
Okinawan,
yes.
Ryukyuan. So these two guys in the translator are trying to talk the tribal chief, whatever they call them, into letting them stay on the island, because of course he would like them out immediately.
They give him a radio.
They give the guy a radio.
They worship the radio.
Yes, they play the radio. They play the radio to sort of show off the marvels of, like,
modern
civilized technology and shit. And they're all they basically start worshiping it. They start handing out cigarettes, which is probably the part of the film where it was you can't really take this film. Like,
right.
That's like the point where it gets a little bit too much. Like, they start handing out lit cigarettes to these tribalists. Most notably, a child comes up to them and starts asking for a cigarette.
A child in blackface.
Yeah, a child in blackface.
It's like tugging on their pant legs, and they're like, "Here, kid, don't tell your mom."
Yeah, I was gonna say, first of all, they debate the ethics of giving the 5-year-old child a cigarette. And they come to the conclusion that they shouldn't do it. And then they do it! They hand him a cigarette.
The wonders of 1962.
And then they hand him a second cigarette.
They hand him like one.
They hand him two, they tell him to dual wield. And then somebody comes and takes it from him. It might be his mother. I don't really know. At this point, I was just kind of having a stroke.
It's so insane. It sounds like a fucking, like, Family Guy cutaway joke.
It almost, including the blackface. This sequence probably only lasted 30 seconds. It felt like it went on for like 2 years.
Yeah.
We cut back to Godzilla, who at this point we see him because we didn't see him. See him.
This is in my notes. Minute 26.
It took 26. Jesus, I wasn't counting that.
To get to I kept like track of when things appeared on screen. The first roar was at 15 minutes. Okay. The first appearance was at 26.
So this movie's only an hour and a half long, to be clear.
Yes. And
so 1/3 into the film, we see Godzilla for the first time.
Yes, and as we're approaching this scene, I don't recall what exactly the context is. You might want to, like, read that. But I have things to say about this, like, about what this scene says about the franchise, like...
Of course, Godzilla is coming out of the Arctic since he's been awoken by the U.S. Navy submarine.
He was trying to eat.
Yes. First of all, Godzilla has a U.S. Navy body count.
I can't really begrudge Japanese movies portraying American submariners dying horrifically, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
So he's coming down from the Arctic. He initially passes through just a general military base. Doesn't say what military, doesn't say what country, but they talk about him crossing the Bering Strait, and also all of the military gear has small red stars on it.
Yeah.
So it's the Soviet Union.
And we should say small red stars because all of these are models. They're like radio-controlled models.
Yes.
Yes, and this is sort of a mark of a very significant change in tone for the Godzilla franchise, because the first film, all the miniature work was very, very subtle and very, like, immersive, like, very serious in tone. This film, not so much. Like, the miniature work is very, very apparent.
Yes.
It's very pretty. I like it a lot, because, that's my thing, but it feels completely different. It feels more action movie, I guess.
I did make a comment about this. The fact that it looks so amateur, I'm wondering if some of it has to do with color, because they did not previously have to compensate for having color and being able to distinguish those things. And also the higher resolution and larger screen size might have also played. So this might just be me reading too much into these things, but I feel like there was probably a bit of inexperience in the medium because they hadn't done it in this style yet. And I mean, they do improve by the next film. But there's also the question of whether some of it has to do with budget, because there's some films in the future where it's just as bad. So yes, Godzilla takes on the Soviet, the Red Army, I assume. Doesn't say what. Could be the Red Air Force. There's an air traffic control tower, I guess.
Yeah. So
far in this film, Godzilla has gained both a U.S. and a Soviet body count.
Which... Basically, Godzilla is Hitler.
God damn it! I was going to go with a non-aligned nation, but sure, that works too, I guess. So we start out with Godzilla dominating two militaries, the two most dominant military powers, which is cool.
With lots of little toy trucks and stuff, and it looks really good.
Yes.
I like it a lot. It's very fun.
Yes. The U.S. Navy or the UN, I don't remember what it is at this point, realizes that the submarine is missing, and they say, we're going to send out a plane. And then the next shot is of a fucking helicopter. I wrote this in my notes because of how much it bothered me. They said they were going to send out a plane, and then they show, I assume a Huey. It's a fucking helicopter.
It's not a Huey. It's like a twin rotor.
It's a Sikorsky H-19 Chickasaw. Thank you, Wikizilla. They run into Godzilla, and the two helicopter staff. Helicopters also U.S. Navy. It says so on the side.
Yep.
Did we miss the first atomic breath in color?
That's true.
Oh, yes. No, that's true. That was on the military base.
On the Soviet military base, he uses the atomic breath for the first time in color.
Yes.
So we see that it's blue for the first time.
Yes.
I feel like the incandescent light in the first two films was probably white. If I had to take a guess, that's my headcanon.
Yeah, fair enough.
Has anyone else on the planet headcanon black and white Godzilla colors? Probably not.
Well, they definitely have for the suit, but that's because there's a long-standing debate about what color that was.
It's brown.
But yes, we see atomic breath for the first time. We see Godzilla in color for the first time, I guess.
Yeah.
I should have said that whenever I pointed out him showing up. That was the first time we would have ever seen him in color.
He's like a greenish, grayish type beat.
Yeah.
And more or less the same color that he'll be for the next, 30 years.
Yeah, that sort of sets the tone there, which is good.
Literally sets the tone.
Yeah.
So true.
So true. Anyway, then our two U.S. Navy sailor helicopter pilots. I don't know.
Naval aviators.
Naval aviators, correct.
With the roundel on it. With the Air Force roundel.
Oh, yeah, isn't that the Army roundel? Doesn't matter.
It's the funny Top Gear.
Yeah, it's the
It's
the star in the circle with the two wings.
The funny Top Gun, not the funny Top Gear. The funny Top Gun.
I fail the nade. The nade. Full spade.
So they find this. So the helicopter comes out. They find Godzilla. They have confirmed that Godzilla is back, and so they inform the media of this, which starts a media frenzy back in Japan.
Someone makes a comment about Godzilla takoyaki.
So yeah. Yes, so Right after we see the newspaper, the different slides in the newspaper headlines, just like the first two films, we cut to Mr. Takno from earlier. Mm-hmm. Marketing exec boy. He is fucking mad that Godzilla is getting a lot of press attention. Why
is no one focused on our dick pill monkey?
Yes.
Well, we haven't gotten the monkey yet.
Yeah, he's mad that they haven't gotten the monkey yet. Because he thinks that Godzilla will upstage it. Now, of course, everybody is kind of afraid that Godzilla is coming back to destroy Japan again. However, you got dick pills to sell, man.
Yeah. I mean,
capitalism goes on.
Actually, that was true in the first film, because that was fish canning instead of dick pills.
No, the second film was fish canning.
So the second film was fish canning.
Nepotistic fish canning.
Yes, so...
There will be a lot of capitalism metaphors going forward.
That's actually weird thinking about it, because we go... first film...
is nuclear.
First film is just a straight metaphor. Second film is fish canning capitalism. Third film is dick pill capitalism.
Fourth movie
that's like amusement park capitalism, which we will do five fucking times for some reason.
I have it in my notes later when I realized it was a capitalism thing, like 3/4 of the way through the film. But I'm kind of surprised this just utterly batshit insane, cuckoo bananas movie, has I don't know if I want to say a serious message, but it has some form of, meaning to it.
Yeah, it's also, I mean, it's about capitalism, but it's also, like all of the Godzilla movies, ultimately about Japanese imperialism.
Well, yes.
In the South Seas and the South Pacific during the war. And it's because it is, again, a story of a bunch of Japanese men who, are seeking to exploit, essentially, these Pacific islands and the indigenous people who live there.
Yeah, no, that's reasonable.
I mean, they literally go off wearing pith helmets. I cannot stress enough.
You're right.
I cannot stress enough God, what's his name? What's his face? The British guy.
I think I know who you're talking about, but I can't think
of it either.
But
the Dr. Bellic type.
Yeah. Motherfuckers trying to find the lost city of Z.
And they also have the reporter, the Japanese reporter, armbands to identify them as Pacific Pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
So marketing Madman is very upset that Godzilla is going to upstage the dick pill monkey, but he sends a telegram to them to hurry the fuck up because Godzilla is coming back.
But meanwhile, they're like, man, there's a fucking octopus. And yeah, shortly afterwards, the village on the island is attacked by a giant octopus which comes out of the sea, which wants their red berry juice.
Yes.
And it's weird. It's just some random, one-off, monster.
But it's amazing.
It's a really, really insanely good sequence.
Yes.
It's some of the best-looking work in the movie.
Because as far as I can tell, they put a real octopus on the miniatures.
They keyed a real octopus into this.
Yes. That is what I'm pretty confident it is looking at it. They just put a real octopus on the models and let him go nuts. And keyed in people in front of it, freaking out or whatever.
And it looks as real as anything. Yeah,
it's pretty good.
And it does look really good. It's under the dark of the night, and it's super dark and shadowy, and it almost looks otherworldly the way it moves around. He's only there. The whole sequence is 5 minutes long.
Yes,
and it exists solely to introduce King Kong.
Yes, because he wakes up King Kong, who was mad about. I don't actually know what he's mad about. He's mad about the octopus existing, I guess.
Eating his berry juice.
Yes.
And it's at this point that I remember that all of the racism was a setup to introduce King Kong to the film King Kong vs. Godzilla. Because in the meantime, I had forgotten that this movie had King Kong in it.
Yes. It's revealed that the giant spirit of
the man with evil spirit.
Yeah. Is King Kong. It's just a large monkey. That's a rather strange god, in my experience, but...
I mean, I'd worship that if there's just a giant monkey that fucked around.
If there's a giant monkey that throws rocks at giant octopuses, I'd probably worship him.
So he shows up and beats the shit out of this octopus,
and he looks good for now.
Yeah,
he will not look good in future.
Yes.
But under the cover of darkness,
the
suit looks okay.
And then he finds the red berry juice, which is in clay pot. They have a bunch of it stacked up in clay pots, and then
he's just sipping.
He drinks a bunch of this. I assume it's Sequel, because he then falls asleep.
He falls asleep because the Faroese do.
Yeah, they do a
big sexy hula dance, basically.
Yes, yeah, and
They cast an enchanting sleeping spell on Monkey.
Yes. And so then Monkey falls over and is laying down, which gives our two fucking idiots an opportunity to tie him down to a raft and...
Fucking Gulliver's Travels this fucking monkey back home.
Where did they get the raft? Who knows? We're not going to explain
where did they get the raft? A better question, of course, we find out very quickly, is that he's rigged with explosives.
The raft? Yes.
They've rigged the raft with explosives. Where did they get the explosives?
Why did they rig King Kong with explosives?
Just in case.
Just in case of what? Don't ask.
Just in case he gets out and they need to kill him.
If they do, this does happen. It's incredibly funny.
And if he stands up, the raft will probably fall over and the explosives will fall over. Anyway, we're introduced to the fact that... so after the word gets back that they caught the monkey and are bringing him back to Japan, the CEO,
Mr. Tako,
helicopters out to the ship that they're taking.
He comes down, I believe, on a rope ladder.
Yes, from a helicopter.
And then he greets them by saying bonsai.
He sure fucking does.
This is true. He does say that.
And it's at this point where I'm like, oh, it's an imperialism metaphor.
Yes.
And it's at this point where I realize King Kong hasn't fought Godzilla yet.
Not at all.
Yeah, how far into the movie are we? Like 45 minutes?
Very.
Yeah. And so he lands. He has this rather goofy umbrella that he extends for comic purposes. Then he walks over to the edge of the boat and starts looking at King Kong, and he goes to put his hand on like a handle that is in front of him. And then the two fucking idiots tell him not to because...
And that's the plunger for the cartoon dynamite that is attached to King Kong.
Which is just sitting open on the open deck.
For some reason.
Nobody is protecting it. There's nothing stopping anybody from grabbing it.
There's not a sign that says explosives or anything like that.
It's already extended. So all somebody would have to do is push down on it, and it would explode the monkey.
And this is when
they don't say what the purpose of exploding the monkey is, and I can't get over that. Like, the answer is in case he wakes up and causes a problem or whatever. But like,
this is just taken for granted.
What is blowing him up gonna do?
It removes the problem. There is no problem that cannot be solved with the proper application of high explosives.
If he shifts himself very slightly, then the explosives are gonna fall off.
Not if you tie the explosives down.
The raft is gonna capsize.
Yes.
The monkey's very heavy, I guess.
Presumably you detonate them before they all go underwater, but...
he's like 45 meters tall in this movie.
Also, if it's like a spur of the moment thing that you need to do right there, nobody is standing near the detonator. Then we do like a solid 2 minutes comic sequence where he keeps putting his hand nearby it.
Yes.
And almost pushing it down, and they have to stop him.
This is a very fun movie.
Yes.
It's very silly.
This guy's very funny.
This is the bit where Tako-san has the idea to make them fight.
Yeah, because they're all fighting over which of the two monsters would win in a wrestling match, because...
And so he's like, hey, wait a minute.
Because they're they're teenagers, I guess.
Let's bring him to him, and then we'll feature him in an ad about the fight. Like it's like a promotional thing.
Yes, we will. The dick pills will sponsor the Godzilla versus.
Presumably, the idea is that King Kong will kill Godzilla with his dick. Well, he's just gonna windmill it or something.
He's just gonna slap him across the face.
The poster for this film where he's swinging Godzilla around, it was originally his cock.
It was originally his cock, but they had to airbrush it out.
Yeah, so that it looks like he's swinging Godzilla around by the tail. So after a solid few minutes of watching three absolute idiots debate what to do with the large monkey they now have in their possession, they are boarded by the JMSDF.
Yes, they are boarded by the JMSDF.
Nobody thought to get government permission before bringing the large monster-sized monkey back to Japan, apparently.
Yes. It is an incredibly funny scene, though, because it just keeps cutting back and forth between these dipshits and the actual Japanese military.
Yes. And what's interesting is that they're in the same uniforms as the American guys in the first part of the film.
Pretty much, yeah.
As a matter of fact, the sailors on the ship hauling the monkey are in
everyone's in
khakis.
summer whites.
The guys on the ship are in khakis, but that's still Navy That's still Navy stuff.
They're still really well put together for.
I mean, yeah, but
an
they're
expedition for this.
Yeah, that's ultimately what I'm saying. Like, there's this merchant marine shit or what? I'm not really. I'm perplexed slightly by why they made these costuming decisions. So after the JMSDF tells them that they cannot import a monkey,
someone says, I wrote it down in my notes, quote, "This is a violation of King Kong's rights."
Yes! Somebody says that. I wrote this down too because it's really funny.
I believe Taco is the one who says that it's a violation of his rights.
Yeah, the funniest guy, yeah, naturally. Jesus fucking Christ, man.
I'm glad we were in unison there.
He says that the JMSDF is violating Godzilla's rights.
No, he's violating King Kong.
The JMSDF is violating King Kong's rights. Now, Japanese forces have violated a lot of people's rights over the years, but I'm not 100% certain you could say that they did that for the monkey.
No, I doubt it.
Maybe it's just a perception thing.
Maybe it's an asylum thing. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, the question is, they have to figure.
Did they have to give King Kong a passport?
Yes. Did they have to give King Kong a passport?
Did they have to give King Kong a passport?
Yes. They leave this plot line unfinished to go do another plot line that doesn't go anywhere.
They do this in this film,
which is that
I kind of lost track of it.
Yeah. So the ship that dropped off the two idiots on North Sentinel Island, Faroe Island. That's what I couldn't remember the name of it for some reason. The name of the ship was the Shinsei Maru 2 because I don't know, reference to the first film for some reason.
Yeah.
After they get dropped off, Shinsei Maru 2 is sunk by Godzilla. So we then cut back to these guys, one of these guys' wives being rather distraught because she assumed he was on the boat. This is as far as I can recall, and as far as Wikizilla is telling me in the summary, because I don't remember this.
The human plot does not cohere very well.
Yes,
there's one scene later on where she's in like an apartment complex, and the guy shows up, and she freaks the fuck out.
Yes.
And he's like, "No, I'm not a ghost. I'm still alive."
Yeah, that happens a little. That's a couple.
And as far as I'm aware, that's all the further it goes.
Yeah, that is the end of the plot line. We're not even really introduced to the Shinsei Maru plot line and how relevant it is until this moment, and then it's not used again.
Yeah.
Okay, it's used again for the second scene, but that's it. After we do that, there's some more talk about evacuating from Godzilla and such. Nothing major. Then we cut back to the ship. Our boy, Mr. Taco, our boy, is still arguing with the JMSDF when Monkey starts to wake up. And this is a bit of a problem.
Is this the point where they just fucking, just blow him up?
Yes, this is the point where they blow him up. This is the point where they start arguing about it, and Mr. Taco accidentally trips the detonator.
Yeah, so the two guys were like, okay, we should blow him up. And Taco was like, no, we shouldn't blow him up. Dick pills. And then, but then in the process, Mr. Taco accidentally
he loses his balance
and falls down on the detonator and blows up the monkey. Except
the raft just explodes.
Yes,
and also it does not kill King Kong.
It does not kill King Kong.
Yeah, I should rephrase. I just remembered. He presses down on it and nothing happens because the cable is
disconnected. Severed. So they have to shoot the
explosives,
yeah,
which then do nothing. The raft explodes. Kong rises up out of the sea as if nothing happened because, how do you blow up kaiju? Kind of difficult to do that.
Yeah, I mean, regular King Kong was taken down by machine gun fire, but this is
he was taken out by machine gun fire and gravity.
Yes.
Well, yes, but this is kaiju King Kong.
It wasn't the airplanes; it was Beauty killed the Beast. But
so true.
Of course, this King Kong is 45 meters tall instead of 50 feet. He's a big boy.
He is.
He's Godzilla sized.
So after being denied entry to Japan, he then, by JMSDF, he then walks there on his own.
Would King Kong be deported in this situation?
Well, I would assume so, but they would probably have to stop him first, and that's the problem. After he goes to Japan, and then he sort of gets a sense that that Godzilla is around.
Godzilla is around.
So he starts heading up towards Godzilla.
His Godzilla sense.
Yes, the Godzilla sense.
The fight scene sense was tingling.
Yes. This is, if I'm remembering right, this is the scene where the guy comes back and his wife is like, holy shit, I thought you were dead.
Yeah.
I don't remember because it's so irrelevant to the plot of the film, to the actual
it's
plot of the film.
Somewhere around here.
Yes.
We also have, around this point, Godzilla's actually doing shit for a couple minutes, and we have the obligatory train scene.
He's here in Japan. Yeah.
Yes.
He's here in Japan, he's fucking shit up.
Yes. Yeah, this was after the evacuation scene because Godzilla catches them while they're evacuating on this electrified commuter train, which is both really well done as a model, but also when it's traveling through in the dark, you can see how they've lit it. Yeah. Like they just have lights inside of the cabin and like translucent plexiglass or whatever,
which is really cool.
Yes, it is. But then he catches the train and they do the train sequence. We get more color keying. But it's in the daylight, so you can see it a lot better. So you can actually it's a lot more distinct because Godzilla at one point grabs somebody off the train. You know, film keying is not easy, right? Like you ultimately have to go in and make the modifications to the film by hand. There isn't really another way you could do that
at this point in time.
Yes, so
and they do a really good job of it for the most part.
Yeah, like you can it's pretty damn good. There's no point where
with the octopus, too, especially?
Oh, yeah. That was the nighttime, though, so the lighting was a bit different. This is, like, full daylight, so it's a little bit differently. Yeah, in any case, Godzilla and Kong finally run into each other for the first time. We're, like, an hour into the film at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and they won't fight, like, for another 10 or 15 minutes.
But they throw rocks at each other.
For, like, 5 minutes, yes. And then they fuck off.
Yeah, and Godzilla does a weird dance thing that is...
If you type
Godzilla
into like tenor GIF search,
yeah, Discord GIF search, it's the first thing. It's like him standing with the.
He's doing a little jig,
and it's pretty funny. We use it frequently. I don't even know why. We just do.
It's a good GIF.
Yeah. Then they throw some rocks at each other, which is where the funniest film picture of the original that you just found before we started.
I just found of like King Kong like. Pitching a rock like a baseball directly into the back of Godzilla's head.
the Godzilla does the atomic breath thing, and King Kong's like, "Oh, this is harder than I thought," and walks away. Then we get a little bit more drama.
Not the last time King Kong will just walk away.
Yes. Then we get a little bit more drama. The UN wants to nuke it.
Naturally.
Yes. This was...
If there's one thing that the UN is really into, it's more nuclear weapons being detonated.
This is true. No, this is very true. The UN was, of course, led by Curtis LeMay at this point in time. So, of course, using nuclear weapons in Asia was the absolute prerogative of all global foreign policy.
Yeah.
So, the Japanese do not like this idea, which... Okay, sure. It is probably fair to not want to use nuclear weapons on Godzilla, I assume. I don't actually remember which one. I remember them debating nuclear weapons, and I don't remember if it was for Monkey or for Lizard. In any case, the JSDF are like, no, we're going to do our own thing, which they force him into like a land depression and then detonate not nuclear weapons but chemical weapons, which is also bad. And also does not do anything. So then they need to come up with a backup plan. So in order to do that, they just rip the plot from the first film and just set up high tension wires.
Yes.
Again, for the second time in 3 films.
And they are as effective as they were the last time.
Yes, you would think somebody would remember that. This film apes a lot.
It does, doesn't it? It really does.
Apes, funny monkey. This film apes a lot from the first Godzilla film and from the first King Kong film, and it's really funny because it's really stupid. This is around Tokyo because that's in the direction Godzilla's heading.
Of course, yeah.
So of course we've actually set up high tension wires around Tokyo for the second time specifically. Yes. So then Godzilla, this time it is sort of effective because it makes him walk away because he doesn't like it.
Yeah.
But the problem is that King Kong likes it very much.
Because, as it turns out, lightning actually makes King Kong stronger.
It makes him stronger.
Yes. He consumes it and he holds onto it and he could use it as a power, which is unfortunate. There's a scene so he, of course, then enters Tokyo because bypassing the high tension wires was as trivial as it was the first fucking time they used them. He grabs the one wife that was hysterical earlier because she thought her husband had died, but he hadn't, and she thought he was a ghost.
Yeah, now we're doing the King Kong thing.
Yeah, he grabs her, and he climbs on top of the tallest building that they can find, which is the National Diet Building.
Because,
it's not very
speaking
tall.
Of Curtis LeMay, there aren't that many tall buildings in Tokyo at this point.
Yeah, well, the National Diet Building is notably quite a bit shorter than the Chrysler Building.
The Empire State Building.
Fuck the Empire State Building.
Was it fucking hell.
I don't remember. I've never seen the original King Kong in its entirety.
No, it is the Empire State Building.
Okay.
I've never seen the original King Kong. I used to be obsessed with the Peter Jackson
Peter
remake.
Jackson's King Kong.
Of course.
If I had $1 for each time we mentioned Peter Jackson's King Kong today, I'd have $2 for some reason. I want to go on a brief tangent because Peter Jackson's King Kong. If you bought the Xbox 360 HD DVD drive, you got a free copy of Peter Jackson's
King Kong.
Which means that there are a lot of HD DVD copies of Peter Jackson's King Kong that you can find laying around.
So if you want to see Andy Serkis get his head eaten by a worm
on HD DVD, quite importantly, you need to have an HD DVD player, which I don't because my Xbox 360 HD DVD player I had was broken. But never mind. It was. I know that it wasn't a very good film, but it is the only King Kong film I have seen. Okay, I saw.
I think it's good.
Saw this
I think
film
there's a lot to say
Godzilla
for it.
X Kong. It's the first dedicated King Kong film I saw.
But you haven't seen Kong Skull Island.
I have not seen Kong.
We should
Skull
remedy
Island.
that at some point.
I don't like watching the legendary films. I don't know why.
It's got Samuel L. Jackson and Brie Larson. And
Okay, it does.
a lot of really cliche Vietnam War music.
Sure. Look, if I want to see Samuel L. Jackson and monsters, I'll watch fucking Jurassic Park.
Alright, fair enough.
Which I have on Laserdisc. It's a good film.
Hold on to your butts.
Might have to cover it at some point. That is technically a kaiju movie.
Is it? Is it? It's not a kaiju movie.
I think it is.
Jurassic Park is not a kaiju movie.
I think Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park is a movie about... It's a monster movie. It's not a kaiju movie.
They're not humanoid. They're just dinosaurs.
Is King Kong?
They're just dinosaurs.
He's a monkey!
He's a primate!
Okay. Alright, I'm defeated here. I see your
Is
point.
Ibira a fucking...
Ibira is a crab.
Yes, Ibira is a crab. Is Ibira a kaiju or isn't it?
Yeah, I think Ibira is a kaiju.
Okay, so the humanoid thing is not a requirement then.
Okay, so then, yeah, Jurassic Park is a kaiju film.
But it's not a kaiju
No, because
film.
the dinosaurs don't exhibit the intelligence of the kaijus are like
Yeah,
are like sentient beings. They're like,
Yeah, but so are the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park. This is very stupid.
we were reviewing a movie.
Yes, we're now reviewing a different film, Jurassic Park. Very good film.
Welcome to Queens of the Monsters. Today we're talking about Jurassic Park.
Yes, you and I watched Jurassic World not that long ago. That's a less good movie.
It's a less good movie, yeah.
Yeah, so King Kong climbs up to the National Diet Building, which is nowhere near as tall as the Empire State Building.
It's like as tall as he is.
Which makes it a little bit less visually interesting.
Right.
But it does make it funny.
It's got like the sort of stair-stepped
Yes.
roof structure.
Yeah.
Which is the important part.
Yeah. The two shitheads that went to Faroe Island sort of remember the thing about him drinking the red juice. I was going to say Red Bull, which I don't know why. I don't really know why I was going to say that. That's clearly not true, but makes him fall asleep.
That tends to be the opposite of what Red Bull does.
Yeah, exactly.
As I recall.
So, not sure why I was about to say Red Bull. I think just it's red something. They just say it's from like fruits or whatever.
They gave King Kong a peach Celsius.
The two idiots remember this, and they tell the JSDF this, and the guy from the beginning of the film that had some of it in jars. They go get him, they steal his red fruits, they turn it into red fruit juice, and they turn it into...
They aerosolize it, don't they?
Yeah, they put it into shells, and they fire it at him, along with the two dipshits from earlier who grab some makeshift percussion instruments and decide to continue the racism from earlier and do the same...
Right.
Dance ceremony.
Yeah, do the same dance, the music from the dance ceremony.
They're like at some point driving around town in a like US left-hand drive Plymouth, like decorated with advertising for their company.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the Dick Pills Plymouth. I remember this.
The Dick Pills Plymouth.
Yes.
I should build that.
This is true. Taco only said that they could only use the fruits and put him to sleep because otherwise the JSDF would kill his Dick Pill mascot. To be clear, he's still really concerned about this.
He's committed to the dick pill thing.
Yes. So he falls asleep. Again, he lets go of the woman that he's carrying is named Fumiko. He lets go of Fumiko. They decide that the smart idea is to connect balloons to him.
In a really goofy pose, too.
Yes.
Yeah. And he just floats away.
And he just... And the plan, and I swear to God, the plan that the JSDF comes with is to use the balloons to take him to Mount Fuji, because Godzilla is there, and they're going to fight each other to death.
Again. We've already run the playbook, but we're going to run it again.
Not even necessarily that one of them is going to defeat the other. They believe that they are going to kill each other.
Right. And, like, neutralize both threats.
Yes. Which makes no sense from a strategic standpoint.
Like, that's not how that works.
Yes. These two are not equally matched. An hour and 10 minutes, like, there's like 20 minutes left in the film at this point. And we get,
There's not much King Kong versus Godzilla in King Kong versus Godzilla.
Yeah.
There's 2 brief sequences.
Yeah.
This sequence is a little longer.
It sort of occurred to me that, like, the more we talk about this film, the less good I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean...
You're realizing a lot of the things that I said at the onset, and you're like, no, this is a good movie. And now we're running down the plot, and you're like...
Huh, that is a lot of filler.
This movie is ultimately... There's a lot of good bits in it, but it is much less than the sum of its parts.
Yes. Yeah. So they...
When they're fighting, it's fucking great.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Kong wakes up and Godzilla's there, and they start fighting, which is, the part where the film starts getting good, the part where I started paying attention again, I guess.
Yes, this is where my notes say, finally, the fucking fight.
I think the problem is, I was on my phone for a fair bit of this film, so I probably just lost track of it.
I was a little out of it for a lot of this film. My internet died partway through.
Yeah, your internet died. Your internet died. It took you... There was like an hour gap in the middle before you could start watching it again.
I don't think there was an hour.
It was a decently long gap.
I mean, like...
So, I guess we had much different watching experience. We had much different watching experiences, but also similar ones, because...
We stopped paying attention.
I guess at the end of the day, I just picked up my phone at some point and started screwing around on it and put it back down once the monsters started fighting. And that makes me think it was a much better film than it was.
Yes.
When the monsters or Mr. Taco are on screen, it's good.
That's true.
When it's just madmen, it sucks.
Yeah. They start fighting each other. King Kong has electric power as a result of drinking all of the electricity earlier.
There's like a stop motion flip kick. It's like one of the only instances of stop motion in the film. There's a bit where King Kong shoves a tree in Godzilla's mouth. And
then he blows it out with the atomic breath. That was interesting. It was a little weird.
We kind of touched on this earlier, but it's the first truly, like, modern kaiju fight. Like, this is what Godzilla will look like for the next 20 years.
Yeah, yeah.
And this is, like, the genesis of it. There was, like, sort of a prototype, like, a lot of the characteristics in Godzilla Raids Again, but here it is fully formed.
Yes. Somehow it's even less of the film than Godzilla Raids Again, but I will say, at least it's at the end of the film this time rather than halfway fucking through it.
Right, yes.
So they beat the shit out of each other. They tear down a castle, which is sort of a mainstay of the franchise, or at least it will become one.
Yes, like traditional Japanese castles being, like, torn down.
Yep. And then they're moving sort of in the direction of the coast at this point, because I guess is the natural direction for them to go. The two of them end up in the bay, the Sagami Bay, which leads out into the ocean.
And there's a tiny little coastal village miniature set that looks really insanely fucking good.
I don't remember what this was, but I choose to believe this.
Along with a lot of good matte paintings throughout. I have several notes about that.
Yeah.
Very, very good matte painting.
Yep, this much is true. King Kong wins.
And he just kind of fucks off.
Yeah, that's a spoiler, I guess. But he just leaves.
And then the end.
Yeah, we don't there's a bit where the villagers are not the villagers, but there's a bit where the onlookers are like, we don't know if Godzilla survived because Godzilla has been so unpredictable and uncertain up to this point. And that's how the film ends.
Yeah, because like the final shot is just King Kong swimming into the ocean,
which is another thing that will happen many more times throughout the Showa films, and actually the franchise in general. We will see the kaiju swimming off into the distance as the end character comes up.
And yeah, it's even more anticlimactic since, of course, Japanese filmmaking at this point, you had the credits at the beginning. So, yes. It just says the end and the movie ends.
Yep. Yeah, and that's it.
That's King Kong versus Godzilla.
Which is a good time when it's not a terrible time.
And when it's a bad time, it's a really, really fucking bad time.
Yeah, it's a bad time.
I wouldn't say it's a bad... I would say that it is a very, it's a bad... I would almost say it's a balanced out experience were it not for the blackface.
Yeah,
the blackface is a problem.
Yes. No, the blackface sort of mars the whole film. It's hard to you can't separate the racism from the film ultimately
because it's such an integral part of the plot. Yes. Like, this is, the racism is the setup for the film.
Yeah, so...
Like, in Godzilla Raids Again, there was, like, a blink and you'll miss it, like, neon sign in the streets of...
racial
Osaka.
caricature.
That
Yes.
was, like, a minstrel character.
Yeah,
but
that's
just,
more...
like, a blink and you'll miss it thing. It's like, oh, that's awful, and then you never see it again, and you never think about it again.
Yeah, and...
that's not the case
No.
in this film.
God, no. No, it isn't. And I mean, you also spend the second half of the film just hoping that the racism doesn't come back.
Yeah.
It always does. Every single time. It comes back like
But the
3 times.
racism does ultimately come back. The racism is key to actually defeating King Kong.
Yes. Yes. And, yeah, this film's a lot worse than I thought it was whenever we started recording this podcast.
We've sort of talked ourselves out of our appreciation of the movie.
Yes, yeah, we sure fucking have, haven't we? I'll be goddamned. This is the first time we've done that. I know the next film is good, at least.
Yes, that is very true.
Yes.
It's like one of the best.
Yes. Do we want to do the scale then?
I've got it pulled up right now.
Amazing. We have our proprietary film rating system. Here.
Yes, and I'm refamiliarizing myself with it because it's been 3 months.
Yeah, so that's cool because it means you're going to go first because I also forget.
Yeah,
forget.
fucking hell.
I also completely forgot it.
All right, you're up first this time.
Okay, so it sounds more convoluted than it is. We're working on it. It may get reworked in the future. None of it matters. The points are fucking made up anyway. But each host gives each film 2 ratings, one for the kaiju action and one for basically everything else. The monster action is weighed twice as heavily as the human drama, etc. And those 2 numbers are averaged together to get a points total per host, and then those totals are added to form the final total. The max a film can get per host is 15, and the max it can get total is 40.
I'm going to let you go first.
Ah, hell. I don't usually like going first.
That's fair.
I in my notes, I have, my tentative scores as a 7 and a 5.
Seems really high.
Yeah. The thing with the kaiju stuff is good, but there's fucking none of it in the entire movie.
Yeah.
Which is why I gave it a 7. I'm probably gonna knock it down to like a fucking 6. I have to recalibrate the way I think about out of 10 scores for this show because when we did Raids Again, I gave it a fucking 7 and a 7, which is way better than it deserves because I was thinking of it in a grading scale.
Yeah.
So a 7 is barely passing. But I've come to the conclusion that doesn't actually make any sense. So I have to account for that and start actually using the bottom half of the scale. I fucking yeah, I'm gonna put the monster action at a 6 and the human drama at a fucking 4. There's a good dynamic between Cuckoo Bananas Taco and his 2 fucking Thing 1 and Thing 2s. And then the rest of it's just racism.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ultimately, the goodness of Taco. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that was where I was going to go with my rating too. But yeah, add your numbers added together and averaged come out to an 8.
Yes, out of 15.
Out of 15, you gave Godzilla Raids Again an 11, but an 8 is what Lucy gave Godzilla Raids Again, which is interesting.
If I were to revise my score for Raids Again, it would probably be a fucking 7 and a 3.
For the human drama. I gave it a 4, so I think I did the scale right. Which means I'm also going to go next for this film. The monster action in this film is real fucking good whenever it exists.
But there's 10 minutes of it total in the whole movie.
The standout monster fighting scene is also the octopus sequence and not one of the Godzillas, which is annoying. It's not necessarily to the film's detriment because the octopus scene's really good.
Yeah.
But it's still not the
But when a random fucking octopus overshadows Godzilla.
Yeah, that's not very good.
In King Kong versus Godzilla.
Yeah. So I'll give it a 6 on the monster action scale. Human drama, on the other hand, good God, this film was bad for that.
Yeah.
Incoherent. Only one enjoyable character. I don't really know what more I can say to that. I'm going to give it a 2, and that's purely for Mr. Taco.
He's a good dude.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I gave it what I did.
Yeah, and that brings the final rating down to a 7, which is 2 points below what I gave Godzilla Raids Again, which I worry is slightly unfair. But ultimately,
Well, okay, Godzilla Raids Again doesn't have toddlers smoking 2 cigarettes in blackface.
Yeah, I guess that's the problem. The human drama was just that fucking bad, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So I gave it a total of 7 compared to 9 for Raids Again and 14 for the first film. Which of course now means that Lucy is up with her history as the harshest raider out of any of the 3 of us.
Well, okay, so I was thinking about giving the human drama a 3 here, but ultimately I don't think that if you've got blackface in your movie, whatever your point total is going to be for me, you probably deserve to get some off, right?
Yeah, no,
so I am going to go with the 2 on this one, and I'm actually just going to go with the 6-2 as well.
Oh, okay.
Because and like like 4 points out of the 6 is for the octopus sequence.
Yes.
Because the other 2 are basically just like what the standard issue kaiju fights are going to be throughout this, which isn't to say bad or not entertaining.
That's
but
fair.
Not particularly interesting once you've seen more kaiju.
Yeah,
fights.
I think it might deserve a little bit of slack cut there since it was the first one to do it. But ultimately I do agree with that point. Now, of course, I'm surprised you wouldn't give it another point up for human drama just because you liked looking at the uniforms.
I liked.
Oh wait, the uniforms were bad.
The uniforms were very badly.
That's right. The uniforms were bad.
So. I liked being pedantic about them.
Well, yeah, okay. So we gave you the
same
opportunity
thing.
to be pedantic. Well, I guess that's kind of what this podcast is for.
Yeah.
So your final score is the same as mine, 7. But yes, after a math fiasco that you didn't just hear.
The fucking person who's awful at math has volunteered to put herself in charge of the spreadsheet. The other 2 should have thought about this.
I'm bad at math.
I'm also bad at math. I'm not hosting a podcast because I'm good at math.
Yeah.
You know what? You got me there.
Yeah, so ultimately we just spent the past 10 minutes talking about having given the film a 15, but
we did not. We gave it a 22, which is still bad.
This film scored a 22 out of the theoretical total of 50 points. Yeah, that makes it the worst scoring film by a
slight margin.
Margin of 5. Because it does make more sense to me, because Godzilla Raids Again is slightly better just because it doesn't have the poison fruit. It doesn't have the poison fruit of the blackface in it.
Yes. And I think I have to say that fight's better. Godzilla and Anguirus.
Yes. Yeah, ultimately we have to consider how much I'm giving an artificial boost because I like Anguirus better than I like King Kong. That's just personal biases. Everybody else also agreed that Godzilla Raids Again was better. So, I don't look like a nut job. We really fucked the pooch by saying that we
liked it.
By saying that we liked it whenever we started this out.
I knew from the beginning.
No, you were right. Well, shit, we gotta get on top of this shit before we come out to the podcast, because now I told a bunch of people that a film was good, and it wasn't good.
Did you at least warn them about the blackface?
We told them about the blackface many, many times.
Unfortunately, telling someone about the blackface cannot prepare them for
how bad it is, yes. Oh my god.
Well, think of it this way. The next one's good.
Yes. God, the next film's gonna be bad, isn't it? And we're going
Mothra?
We're going to have fucked it up.
No, the next movie's Mothra.
Yeah, I know, but we're saying it's good now, which means we're going to have fucked up, and it'll turn out to be bad.
What's going to be what is going to be problematic about Mothra?
How much racism will there be in Mothra?
They do the tribalism for Mothra.
Well, yes, that's a considerable part of Mothra.
Yeah, I was going to say, it happens every time there's Mothra.
Not every time.
In this
era, okay.
It didn't happen in the Millennium films, whatever. Yeah, that's that. So 22 out of 50 compared to 27 for Godzilla Raids Again and 40
for Godzilla.
Godzilla 1954, yeah, which makes it the worst film we've watched so far. Granted, out of 3, not a high bar, but it's probably going to stay there for a little bit.
I don't think so, because look, you can't. I'm not going to say you can't get worse than blackface, but I think in this franchise, that's a real low point.
Yeah, no, the blackface is pretty bad.
See, I don't know how much I agree with the bearing and the scale on this one, because King Kong versus Godzilla has some really bad moments, quite a lot actually. But I think I had a better time overall watching it than I did Godzilla Raids Again.
Yeah, I mean, it is ultimately a worse overall product, but there's more interesting parts to it.
I guess that's fair.
King Kong vs. Godzilla is very goofy. It's very fun. You know, when it's not doing racism, it's a rather fun movie. There's a couple goofy, slapstick adjacent, comedy set pieces with our trio of characters, and King Kong's a goofball, and Godzilla's a goofball. It's a lot less self-serious than Raids Again, and I think that counts for a lot.
Yeah, and it's a shame that we're now rehabilitating it after we just gave it a low score, but it's not a film that could be literally cut in half and not lose it,
right?
Like Raids Again is, and there's something to be said about that.
You could definitely trim a lot from this film,
like the racism,
That's the problem, though. You can't trim
the racism.
A lot of the racism. Some of it you can.
Yeah.
But, Godzilla Raids Again, you could have cut it in half, and it would have been a totally fine film.
Yeah.
That's not as much the case with this one. You could trim little bits here and there, but it still felt too fucking long.
It did feel too long. And I don't even know why. Speaking
of too long, we've been recording for 90 minutes.
That's okay, though, because 15 of it is us counting the wrong fucking rating.
Yeah, there's going to be quite a bit. Speaking of cutting, there's going to be a fair bit of that, I suppose.
Yes. Well, it's a podcast. There always is.
Yeah.
It's just thank your editors. That's all I can say. And of course, your editors here is me. So I'm gesturing for
Maya.
them.
Thank you, Maya.
Gesturing for them to thank me, and they weren't doing it. Congratulations.
Yay.
All right. I guess we can end the podcast now. Anybody have anything to plug?
Nah. I have a million, artistic pursuits that have yet to come to fruition. So, no, I got nothing.
I have a Substack. I'm going to be writing an article for that in the near future, although it will be political in nature. I have some past articles that are not. I think I'm pretty decent at it. So, you could find that pinned to the top of my Twitter bio, and to clarify, I am on Twitter at Maya Walk With Me. I probably said at Maya King PA in the last two, but I changed my Twitter handle.
Yeah, it turns out, we've been gone for a while. She's changed.
Yeah. So I think I just wanted to plug my Substack, so I think I think we're over to you, who doesn't have anything to plug.
I don't have anything to plug, no.
Awesome. Cool. You have a Twitter, but it's private, so this is kind of all for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I have a Blue Sky, but, there's porn on there.
It's Blue Sky. Also, it's Blue Sky.
And also, it's Blue Sky.
Not even a website at this point. So, I think that's a podcast.
I think so.